Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Edward III, and today we get to hear from the fourth Frenchman in Act 3, Scene 2. Now, this scene, all right, before we get into that, the French are not doing so well. The war has started. King Edward got distracted a little bit from his I gotta invade France thing with the whole Countess of Salisbury thing, but now that that's kind of been put to bed, he got his army and his navy together and went to invade France. And Act 3, Scene 1, we spent on the French side of things where they were a little bit nervous, but then they were feeling good. But then it turns out that the English navy is showing up a lot sooner than they thought, so they go out like they have to get to fighting now. And King John of France and his son had a snack while the war was going on, while the naval battle was going on, and they received word that the French side did not do well in that naval battle and that the English have actually landed on French soil. And they're like, oh my goodness, now we got to go fight. Which could actually be a good place to put an intermission in this play, especially considering what Act 3, Scene 2 is. Act 3, Scene 2, we get to hang out with just some random French people. There's first, second, third, fourth Frenchmen and French woman in this scene. So Shakespeare likes to do that. He likes to give us the common man's perspective on war and what's going on. And it can be a nice break because there's also some exposition in this particular scene. So if you go to intermission and you come back and you need to know, we need a quick refresher of what happened and where we are in the story, this could be a good place to pick it up, because we start out with, there's Frenchman 1 and 2, and they've got their bags and all sorts of stuff, and they're going away, and Frenchman number 3 comes in and he's like, why are you, what are you doing? Why do you have all of your stuff with you? Where are you going? And they're like, didn't you hear? The English are invading. We got to get out of here. This is bad. And the third Frenchman's like, oh, it's not that bad. And we're so far inland, he's never going to get here. And they're like, yeah, and that's what the grasshopper says about the winter, is that it's never going to get him. And then it does. And then they talk a little bit about the validity of King Edward's claim, being that King Edward was the son of the late French king's sister, which looks a little better than King John, who's 3 steps removed from the previous king. They're like, maybe it is actually, a legitimate claim and something that we should be concerned about. And then a fourth Frenchman comes in and shouts, "Fly, countrymen and citizens of France! Sweet flowering peace, the root of happy life, is quite abandoned and expulsed the land, instead of whom ransacked constraining war sits like to ravens upon your houses' tops. Slaughter and mischief walk within your streets, and unrestrained make havoc as they pass. The form whereof even now myself beheld upon this fair mountain whence I came. For so far off as I directed mine eyes, I might perceive 5 cities, all on fire. Cornfields and vineyards burning like an oven. And as the leaking vapor in the wind I turned but aside, I likewise might discern the poor inhabitants escaped the flame, full numberless upon the soldiers' pikes. 3 ways these dreadful ministers of wrath do tread the measures of their tragic march. Upon the right hand comes the conquering king, upon the left his hot unbridled son, and in the midst our nation's glittering host, all which, though distant, yet conspire in one to leave a desolation where they come. Fly, therefore, citizens, if you be wise. Seek out some habitation farther off. Here, if you stay, your wives will be abused, your treasure shared before your weeping eyes. Shelter you yourselves, for now the storm doth rise. Away, away, methinks I hear their drums. Oh, wretched France, I greatly fear thy fall. Thy glory shaketh like a tottering wall. So the fourth Frenchman runs in and yells, "Doom!" And then Act 3, Scene 2 is over, which is basically what he's saying, and that is where Act 3, Scene 2 ends. He comes in and he's like, get out of here because the war is coming and it's coming this way. I just saw it. I saw all these cities on fire, and people who were able to get out of those cities were being killed by the English soldiers who, there's the English king over here and there's his son over here, and our little French army is sort of trapped in the middle. And even though it's separate factions, they're moving sort of as one unit across the land, destroying everything as they go. So if you stay here, your wives are going to be abused, your goods, your treasures are going to be shared amongst the English. You won't get to keep anything. So get out of here. Run as far as you can, as fast as you can. Just get out of here. And that's the end of Act 3, Scene 2. So it's a thing that Shakespeare likes to do in showing us how the events surrounding the royal world affect the common person. In these worlds, we often get to see how wars affect the common man, and that's what this is. But it's also interesting because, similar to the French mariner's speech, we're getting to hear about the war from the losing side, which you don't always get to do. And it's an interesting choice to make, and gives I guess a heightened sense of doom to everything that's going on. I mean, we're not actually in the battle. We don't get to see it. All of that is happening off stage. But in hearing the tales of how destructive these battles are from the losing side, it's just, I think, a really interesting perspective on war. But anyway, so poor French in this respect, their citizens are doubting whether or not France actually can win. They're wondering if King Edward actually has a claim to the throne, and the French Navy was destroyed and the French army is being destroyed, so things aren't looking so hot for France at the moment. But that was only Act 3, Scene 2. We have plenty left to go, and I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.